Welcome to the Imperfectly Empowered podcast with leading DIY lifestyle blogger Ahna Fulmer, where women are inspired with authentic stories and practical strategies to reclaim their hearts and homes by empowering transformation, one imperfect day at a time.
Well, we are here with Diane Sudhoff. Thank you for being on here, the Imperfectly Empowered podcast, and you're sharing your experience and your testimonial. You were a Faster Way to Fat Loss client like months ago now.
Right.
I mean, it was before last summer, right?
It was in May. I started in May. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
because I remember taking.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I remember that because we took a trip with some friends on like week 3, and it was fine. It was absolutely fine. You know, I didn't cheat once, and it was easy to do.
Yeah. Well, you've been amazing. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what initially even prompted you to start the Faster Way.
Well, I have never signed up for any kind of specific program before.
Yeah.
I have done South Beach a couple of times just by getting the book from the library and reading it, not really any thorough education. And I found that eliminating the carbs was fine for some immediate gratification, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I needed something that was sustainable. I knew that I needed something a little bit more solid. And when I heard you talking about it and you said the ditch the scale mindset, I went, aha, because I have always said, I don't care how much I weigh as long as I don't look it.
Yeah. Right.
And what I didn't realize, the biggest surprise for me was how much different it makes me feel to be rid of the fat. Because it isn't, and it's so, I found it really very easy to stick with it. I mean, I really did. I think the intermittent fasting is probably the easiest part for me. I was never really a breakfast person. And I, as long as I get myself busy, I don't think about the food, and I would forget. And it's often 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I kind of, I really do need to eat something.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because with a lot of the clients, and I don't know if this was your experience or not. So for people listening and watching, intermittent fasting, I promote the 16-8 method. So we fast for 16 hours, eat for 8. And the key with intermittent fasting, where so many people, get it wrong, is that it's the important piece is what you're eating in that 8-hour window. So the problem is people don't find it sustainable because, one, they don't have consistency in hours. So they're all over the place. One day they start at this time, the next day they start at another time, and you need to really protect that fasted window. But then it's like you just said, Diane, it's the eating window that you really need to dial in on, because I think some people just, they haven't practiced eating enough. And so they end up like quickly shoving food in their mouth and not being able to dial in over that period of time. Did you find it challenging initially to get all your nutrition in that window? Yeah, it's really a learning curve.
I really, most days, I honestly did not have my minimum calories in. It also went along with listening to your body more and knowing, am I hungry? Is that really, am I eating this because I'm hungry? Or am I eating this just because it's sitting on the counter and I'm walking by?
Right. That concept of mindful eating.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me. I think another motivating factor for me was I heard from countless sources, even in the medical profession, that, once you hit menopause, everybody just has a belly. You can't help it. It's part of the process. And I just didn't like to grab onto that. And so when I heard that this was really losing the fat, it spoke to me also. And I wasn't ready to accept that I was going to have a belly the rest of my life. And so I thought that's what I really want to go after was, can I? And I found out that yes, just because you're in menopause, you really don't have to have a belly. I mean, it really worked for me.
So let's talk about how it worked for you, Diane. You have rocked this. So the first 6 weeks, you lost how many inches?
13 and a half. My goal was 10.
13 and a half inches. And then you've lost how many inches till now?
19 and a half. I've added another 6. So about
You're amazing.
After my initial 6 weeks, then I feel like I've been losing about an inch a month. And not really working that hard at it. Still
Sustaining
fasting is natural.
Yeah.
But I don't log my food like I did during those 6 weeks like I should. And I need to get back on that. And I'm hoping that the new path makes that easier for me.
Yeah.
So when I get back on that, I think it'll be better even than this. But I'm happy where I am. I'm doing this current 6-week challenge. I'm doing that just to make sure. And I'm nervous that I'm going to backslide and let some of it inch back on. And I just don't want to go down that path.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and what you're saying, I think, is something that is so important for people to hear, because I see this all the time with clients is, it's not a quick fix. I mean, you've been implementing these strategies now, the whole food nutrition, intermittent fasting, effective 30-minute workouts. We did track macronutrients, but that is like, I always tell people, you do not track food for life. Some people have to do it longer than others, but the goal is to be able to learn trends as opposed to having to track your food forever. So for anybody listening, that is the piece of it that is not necessarily sustainable. Tracking food's like a full-time job. And then carb cycling is one of the other strategies that we implement. And what I appreciate about someone like you is that you were willing to take your time with it and keep going. I think that's the piece that it's really hard for people to understand, that it's just not a quick fix. These changes take time, and you're going to have those 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You might put on some inches over a period of time, but then you dial back in, and it's finding that new baseline. It's establishing that new healthy body fat percentage, and that becomes your baseline. And I just have so much respect for you, because you've done that. You have done that. You've established a new baseline for yourself. And look at you. You're gorgeous. You look amazing.
Thank you. It is so, I think, easy for me now to not backtrack, because I feel the difference.
Yes.
It's, and not even just in my clothes, but just in general. I mean, there are times that I just feel like I could fly.
Yeah.
I wish I was a dancer, because, I think it would make it, but I'm so excited about it, and I feel so much better for it.
Yeah.
And when I've encouraged friends about the program, it's always just because I just want you to feel as good as I feel.
Amen.
And that's, it's just wonderful.
Yeah. Well, it's, and like I said, we weren't meant to live with tons of extra body fat. That's the piece, is that people forget it's not just about how you look. The reality is, I don't believe that God designed our bodies to carry, excess body fat. And that's where, Diane knows this, but I'm really passionate about helping people start to see these numbers with a more physiological mindset, to try to take some of the emotions out of it. That's why I'm passionate about ditching the scale, because the number on the scale is a terrible reflection of your overall health. It means nothing, and muscle weighs more than fat. So, you can weigh the exact same at 2 different stages in life and look totally, totally different. One person, at 125 pounds could be lean and fit and preventing disease. Another person could weigh 125 pounds and have chronic disease because they're super unhealthy. So it's that whole concept. And I just get so excited when I hear, clients like yourself who embrace that mentality and can start to focus on something more than just a number on the scale, and find that new baseline, that healthy body fat percentage.
Yeah, it is. It's great. I had hoped, I have an issue with one of my Achilles, and I had hoped that just having that extra weight off would make a difference.
Yeah.
And it's a little better, but it's more of it's a different issue than, the extra fat on, and how much it hurts your back or hurts your knees or hurts your hips.
Yeah.
So I do need to back off on that expectation. But it has, I can do things that I didn't think I would be able to do. I just feel so good with it.
I love that. If you could pinpoint it, what surprised you the most about my program? Like, was there something that you're like, oh, I was not expecting that, whether good or bad? Real talk, good or bad. I'm not hiding anything.
Yeah, it's the energy and the confidence surprised me. I thought, yeah, hopefully I'll look better when I get some of this off, and I'll, wear clothes a bit better than what I have.
Yeah.
It has affected every side of me. And I think more because maybe this might sound really, really extreme, but I feel empowered by it. Because I think we all get to the point where we just think this is what our bodies are. This is what what it is.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's like I took control back, and it's giving me control in so many other things that I do, even in our job as content creators, it's given me confidence.
Yeah. I love that.
That surprises me. I really didn't think that I didn't have the connection that much between the physiological part of me and the spiritual part and the emotional, everything else. And mental. It all really. And why was I not aware of that? Of course I was aware of it, but I didn't really think that there was that much of a click, and there really
tied
is.
Together. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes. When one is bad, it affects everything else. Yeah. So I've taken back the physiological piece, I feel like, and it's, and I'm so much happier, and it makes me feel so much better. And, I can just walk with confidence.
Yeah. So. I don't think that's extreme at all or exaggerating. I think it's the sense that, it feels, it boosts confidence too, because you did it. It's that sense of I think that's true of anything that we put our minds to and we're able to accomplish something. It's like that feedback loop. It's like sometimes the best way to boost your confidence is to just do it. It's like that sense of you just have to get started. And that's, I think, especially when we talk about as women, I think when we talk about weight loss or fat loss, there's such an instant emotional connection to it that sometimes I think people just feel discouraged instantly. It's like they can't even process the idea of starting another program, another diet, and because they've experienced so many ups and downs already that they're just tired. I think so. I love what you're saying, though. It's this idea that you've been reminded how important it is to not just only do it for yourself, for your health, but also the way that it has so drastically affected every other aspect of what you do and who you are as a person. 100%. We're holistic beings. So when we can address the physiological aspect of who we are, and my clients hear me talk about this, but I'm as passionate about the mindset change as I am about the physical change, because as you just said, they are so closely intertwined. So I love that. I don't think that is extreme at all.
And I think the mindset is really the hardest thing to get you started, to say, okay, I'm going to start this Monday. This Monday is my day to take back my life, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to commit myself to these 6 weeks. Yeah. And, if you really commit, now I have to say, I did not cheat once. And even though the program encouraged you to cheat on Saturdays or on the weekend, have one cheat a weekend.
Treat day. Yeah.
I didn't, at least the first 4, because I was seeing so much progress. I mean, by week 2, I was feeling the difference. Yeah. And week 3 in particular. And so I was just, I didn't trust myself yet that if I took that one step back, would I be going forward again? Or would I just completely fall? And once I had that first cheat and it wasn't a big deal to go back, then it was okay. It just, I can't let myself get into cheating all the time, And what I keep telling myself is really the only person I'm cheating is myself. And why on earth do you want to cheat yourself? And then when you start feeling better and you can really feel the difference, then there's no way I want to cheat myself. Because I don't want to go back to how I felt before.
Yeah. And there's so many pieces to that. And I appreciate that insight, because it is different for different people. I have clients who they need to be allowed to cheat on Saturdays. They need to be able to have those treats because they are so exhausted by the all or nothing, and they need to be able to give themselves permission to have sweets, to have And then there's other clients like yourself who, you know, that you need a period of time where you just simply need to take a hard left and make those elimination changes. And, you know, what I'm passionate about as a coach is not just meeting people where they're at, but also helping people recognize that it is a long-term game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And so everyone might need to do something different initially, but the long-term goal is ultimately not just improving your metabolic flexibility physiologically, but also your mental flexibility. It's like you will only destroy, you know, I have clients that write me in a panic because they just ate 6 Oreos and they're like mentally just undone, you know, and the fact is you will only undo 6 weeks of work if you tell yourself you've undone 6 weeks of work. Physiologically, you haven't. I'm telling you that. You can believe me or not. But you cannot gain fat after eating 6 Oreos instantly. You will gain fat if you eat 6 Oreos every day. And you don't do all the other things that I've told you to do. So it's exactly what you're saying. It's this idea that you build a new baseline and you give yourself grace. And so, you know, Diane didn't cheat, but the fact is, I have clients who they really struggle with, they make progress and then the next day they just blow it. And that's okay. It's one step at a time. You will only not succeed if you tell yourself you're not going to succeed and that you've just totally messed it up. And so I love your story because there's longevity there. You've taken it one day at a time and you're seeing progress. And I love that.
Well, and you maybe have to do a few tricks to make it work best for you. Our house is a lake house. It's an old lake house. And so the kitchen is downstairs closest to the lake because that's where you do all your entertaining, and our bedrooms are upstairs. And also on the upstairs floor is where my office is and my studio. So I moved my morning pill box, which has my vitamins and my fish oil and that kind of thing, into my bathroom upstairs so that I could take them there and not even go by the kitchen in the morning. And I don't even go downstairs and go by the kitchen until 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So I was able to just change some things around so that that temptation of walking in and just grabbing, it'll just be one chip or one pretzel or one something. That wasn't at me all the time, you know? So there's some things that you can do, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's being intentional. And I think that's such a great piece to point out, is that it is different for every person. Every person's situation is a little different. And for some people, the progress will happen more slowly than others for a variety of factors, whether it be your genetics or, you know, for my breastfeeding moms, I always tell them you will see results, but it may be slower because you can't do certain things because you're breastfeeding and you need to keep up your supply. It'll just take a little bit longer, but it's not all or nothing. You know, it's taking one imperfect day at a time. And so it's different for every person's situation. And that's such a great point. Everybody has to take different steps, knowing what will work for them. You said energy. Is there another non-scale victory that you're most proud of, whether it be sleep, food freedom, ditching the scale? You know, whatever you did say, energy. So that's a good one.
The energy and the confidence are huge.
You did say that.
I think the food awareness or not being tied to the food so much is really good. But yet what I also love with this program is I don't feel like I am restricted in where I can go to be with friends. Like we went on a vacation on week 4 and 5. We were on vacation with some good friends. And I was able to make it work without being, you know, the Debbie Downer for everybody, you know?
Right.
And it was just, I could pick something off the menu and I'd have just a little mound of pulled pork and vegetables and, you know, a side salad. And, you know, it was great. You know, it was fun. I didn't really feel like I was missing out on anything. My big weakness is ice cream. I only discovered in adulthood. Honestly, I never had an ice cream cone until I was a junior in college.
What's your favorite flavor?
Oh, anything anything, as long as it's creamy. I'm not don't like the nuts in it, but something like salted caramel is just fabulous, something along that line. It needs to have some depth and some real character to it.
Yeah.
And then I was struggling with the idea of whole foods, but yet doing protein powder. It's like, because that's not a whole food. And you talked me through it and encouraged me to use the Orgain. And I tell you, during my 6 weeks, I had one of those every single day, and I loved it. I used a frozen banana instead of ice, so it kept it really creamy and it didn't water down the flavors. And it was fabulous. And I'm addicted to them. My husband now has one every morning with fruit. He has a fruit smoothie every morning.
I love that.
We just I love it. It has replaced my need for ice cream. It has satisfied that creamy, cold, sweet treat.
Well, it's another example of being innovative and figuring out, again, it's not all or nothing. It's figuring out, okay, doesn't mean you never ever have ice cream, but what do I need to do in the meantime so that my new baseline is something that is fueling my body more effectively, but it doesn't mean you never eat ice cream again. So I think that's another great example of just sort of doing what you need to establish a new baseline. And I love what you mentioned about the food awareness for people watching and listening. One of the really important things that we talk about is not pursuing a diet of elimination, but pursuing a lifestyle of moderation. And this idea that, food was meant to be enjoyed, and it's learning how to effectively fuel your body with that food and pairing it at the right time with the right exercise, et cetera. So I appreciate that insight because I think it's important for people to understand the goal in my mind as a coach is to help you think less about food and enjoy the time around it. So you think a lot about it initially. We track food. It's a huge pain in the butt. I'm dialing in right now myself. So I'm tracking again. Listen, even the professionals, when they want to dial in, they start tracking. Like that's just the reality. But the goal is to get yourself to a place where your baseline, you don't have to track, your trends, what your body needs. So the goal is to eventually think less about food, experience that food freedom. So I think that's also a great point. Tell me, Diane, for people listening, for your own followers, for anyone listening or watching, who's sharing some of your concerns, who hears what you're saying and is wondering, I just don't know. Why would you ultimately recommend the faster way to them? Why would you recommend my program?
Because I think
other than that, you look amazing. It's not just all about looks. We know that, but she looks amazing.
But it sure does help.
It sure does help.
I would say, because it's based in science, but a whole look at science. It's not just taking that microscope down to one thing and saying, aha, if we do this one thing, then,
the quick fix one thing.
Yeah. And I appreciate that a lot. And the fact that it's not a quick fix, the fact that it's flexible and you can, it's a livable kind of diet, a livable kind of, lifestyle now. Yeah. And I really, really appreciate that. It helped to have you as a coach, somebody who I felt accountable to, somebody who was there checking in on me. That was awesome. I will say from the more negative side, not necessarily negative, but it may not be a program for absolutely everyone. If you cannot do the technology side of it,
100%.
If you need a face-to-face person that you can sit across the table from, then this may not be the program for you. But if you can, you don't have to join Facebook, be a Facebook person, a daily Facebook person, but you need to be able to access Facebook to use and be in a private group so that you're not involved in all the rest of the Facebook falderall going on. If you're okay with that, then this is a great program.
That is such a great point. I'm glad you said that.
And you have to be patient. The first 3 or 4 days can be frustrating because you don't really understand what's going on. And then it's like kind of clicks. Okay, well, that's why they're not giving me everything at once. We're going to start just with the intermittent fasting. Then we're going to start with the tracking. Then we're going to start with the carb cycling. And it all falls into place where I was expecting day one, I want it all right now.
Yeah. And let's go. Everything right now.
I wanted this huge enlightenment, and that's not how it, it's like cramming before the finals,
Right. That's exactly
you wouldn't be cramming.
right.
You wouldn't be pulling an all-nighter if you had done the work building up. And that's what this is.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. That's great feedback. And it is true. This is a digital virtual program, and the technology can be challenging for some people. And I think, again, to your point, it's not a one size fits all, it's still what's right for you. And I'll be the first person to say that. I entirely disagree when somebody promotes their product and says, this is for everybody, because I think there's, at least in my life, other than the Bible and Jesus, there's very little that is for everybody. It's not necessarily for everybody, but the bottom line is we would love to have you experience the same energy and confidence and food freedom that Diane has talked about, not to mention the results, the inches lost. There's going to be a link on the show notes at my website at hammersandhugs.com that you can sign up for my next round. My next round is open. And again, it is virtual. There's more information on my website, but I would love for you to use that link. If you resonate with what Diane is saying, I would love to have you click on her link to sign up. She does get a commission for that. And just a thank you for being willing to share her story, and a congratulations for all her results. But we would love to have you join. And like Diane said, we want you to feel better, to have more energy, more confidence. Yes. And then you can fulfill your God-given purpose with more freedom, joy, energy, all of the above, and do what you were meant to do with just a little bit more pep in your step.
That's right.
Yes. Diane, thank you so much for being willing to share your
Thanks,
story.
Ahna.
Yeah, you're amazing.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Imperfectly Empowered podcast. It is my honor to be here with you. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. If you are watching on YouTube, be sure to click the subscribe button below so you don't miss a show, and leave a comment with your thoughts from today's episode below. If you are listening via your preferred podcasting platform, would you help keep us on the air by rating our show and leaving an honest review of your thoughts from today? In case you haven't heard it lately, your story matters and you are loved. This is your host, Ahna Fulmer, and I will see you here next time on the Imperfectly Empowered podcast.